Kaustubha Das here with the big announcement for Wisdom of the Sages listeners. This August will be Ashram Month at the Super Soul Farm. Simple ashram living, rising early, morning kirtan, yoga and pranayama, healthy vegan and vegetarian meals, farm seva and being immersed in nature, and then gathering in the evenings for kirtan and readings. Plus, each week we'll have a lead presenter teaching a different facet of the philosophy and lifestyle of Bhakti-yoga. Week number 1 will be the exceptional Bhakti Lata teaching a course called The Beauty of Bhakti, bringing the culture of love and devotion into our lives. Week number 2 is my brother from another mother, Raghunath, teaching Falling in Love with Divinity, the Bhakti-yogi's method for opening the heart. And week number 3 is myself with a course called Following the Path, examining the history and teachings of Bhakti-yoga. You can come for 1, 2, or all 3 weeks, and the pricing is by donation. For more dates and information, go to wisdomofthesages.com/events. Peace.
Live from Super Soul Farm, this is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast with your host, Raghunath, and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center, New York, Kaustubha Das. Welcome to the show, everybody. Welcome to Sleep In Sunday. I slept into a ripe 5:56 a.m. this morning, Kaustubha. I was like,
Man, you are just losing it.
That extra.
I think you do need it, actually.
I did it. You know what? I have like adrenal fatigue going on.
That's what my wife said about you. She said you got adrenal fatigue. What time did you go to sleep?
Went to bed at reasonable 9:30.
Okay, and you needed it, I think.
I think I did, but I slept. Those guys were having kirtan all night by the fire last night. We're here live with the kirtan school crew, and these guys are excited. You know, it's like a nice 5-day program where you can really just sink into a sadhana and regulation, and wake up in the morning, have a morning program, have a yoga class, have breakfast with your people, have our morning teachings, have lunch together. And wind down in the evening. And last night we probably had like 75 people here for public kirtan.
Nice.
And it was very, very sweet. Very, very sweet. Yeah. It's great. We're having a real local community is becoming strong, and the classes are becoming good. I'm excited. And that brings us to Ashram Month, everybody.
Okay.
Ashram Month is happening, but we've changed it to only 2 weeks. You know
It's
why?
a 2-week thing.
Because me and Kaustubha want to do our week together. That's why. Because I like him. And so me and Kaustubha are going to do our week together. And then Bhakti Lata is going to do her week first. And man, Rachel never text messaged me. What's the weeks of that, Rachel? Where are you? Oh my God, she's in trouble. She's in hot water. When I see her, she's in hot water. But basically, in any case, it's 2 weeks.
In the middle of August.
It's in the middle of August, and she sent an email out to everybody who already registered, and I'm excited for it. I'm excited to do stuff with you, Kaustubha. We're gonna have a fun week together.
Yeah, that'll be great.
Yeah. Go to wisdomofthesages.com, and you can click on the link that says Sage Academy. I think it's going to we're really.
I think there's an Ashram one too.
There's an Ashram Month. Mara, get your act.
But that week,
producer here.
The week with Bhakti Lata is going to be all about like learning Vaishnava etiquette and learning the meaning of a lot of the different rituals, even things like cooking and serving food, and how rich and how the tradition plays out through all that. And the week that Raghunath and I do together, if you really want to understand this particular Bhakti lineage, we're going to get into it like deep, Sri Chaitanya and the 6 Goswamis and Vrindavan, and like that. It'll go into detail. There'll be a lot to learn, good opportunity to learn more about this particular lineage. Stuff we don't go into on the podcast all the time.
You can't sort of go into it sort of you have to sort of like live that stuff. And you learn from being in India or living in an ashram. And Bhakti Lata is such an expert teacher. Rachel took her course when she did it at the Bhakti Center. And Rachel was like, we need Bhakti Lata up here to do this. It's a must. And we've all done programs with Bhakti Lata, and she's empowered and wonderful and a beautiful singer, and we love her. She's sort of part of our Wisdom of the Sages family.
Mm-hmm.
Any other announcements?
I got some announcements, but maybe Mara has some first.
I have some too. There's a Bhakti Recovery Group meeting today at 9:30 a.m. and then today at noon for our Patreon members. there's a Anu is offering a yoga for chronic pain asana class
Oh, we've been
at noon,
talking
and I'll
about
send out
chronic
that
pain
link
then.
on Patreon.
Who's
Okay.
back?
Yeah.
Okay,
Now, I got a couple things to mention, Raghu.
Prabhu, please.
Number one, I'm at the Bhakti Center this morning at 11 a.m. for the Bhagavad Shravana. We're talking about Srimad
Ooh.
Bhagavatam. It's live. If you're in the area, please come if you can. That's free of
Alright.
charge, and it's Bhagavad Shravana is a great thing because it's like cool people interested in Bhagavatam getting together, discussing it, picking it apart, sharing. The audience can kind of get involved in it too.
What is it? It's like a Bhagavatam class?
It's a Bhagavatam class, but it's like a little bit more interactive. There's like a screen there. We can put the verses up there. If someone has something to say, if we quote something, we can pull it up. We can pick it apart. There's it's a little more engaging than perhaps your typical Bhagavatam class. I don't want to say the typical Bhagavatam class is not engaging, but it's a good way to engage the Kali Yuga mind. Like get involved. So in any case, I'm there at 11. It's like 11 to 12:30, and then they serve out a nice meal to go with that. Hang out afterwards, and then what was the other? Oh, and then the other thing is what we've been sharing all week is that tomorrow is the day where tomorrow's the day where everyone has the chance to sign up for our Sage group. So we're going into our second Sage group session. It's a 16-week session where you can sign up and become part of a Sage group, which means it's a small group, about like 7 people, that will get into topics from from the previous week's podcast. I'm getting an echo or something from your thing, Raghunath. I'm not sure why.
I hear too. I thought it was your
Yeah.
thing.
I think it's your thing because I got my headphones on. But in any case, it's a great chance to join that. We'll get into it more in depth tomorrow, but tomorrow you'll be able to go to wisdomofthesages.com/sage groups. I believe will be the link, and you can register for a Sage group. More info on that tomorrow. But get ready.
Okay. Well, now it's time, my friend, to introduce our Sunday guest. Every Sunday we bring on a person we think they're doing something sort of cool with their life, and this is an old friend of mine named Gopi Gita from Dallas, Texas. Gopi, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm so honored to be here in your sanctuary. It's such a beautiful space.
It's a beautiful space.
I got a little bio for Gopi Gita, but Gopi Gita just published a book called Leadership Parenting. She grew up in several Krishna temples in America and practiced Bhakti-yogi since childhood. She's the founder of Leadership Parenting. She's a parent coach and an educational consultant for the ISKCON Ministry of Education. She serves as the vice principal of a private school in Dallas, the TKG Academy. That's an academy named after my guru, right? Tamal Krishna Goswami, TKG Academy. She's also the founder of Bhakti Leadership Academy, where she and her team mentor teenagers around North America in leadership principles. In the past 20 years, she has served more than 1,000 children, mentored more than 500 parents, and personally guided over 100 educators. She's been trained in Waldorf and Montessori education and has a degree in child psychology. Quite a resume there.
Thank you.
It is very impressive.
Should we go ahead and say where the book is available right now? Just get that up front.
Yeah. Yes, you can go to gopigita.com and click on the link right at the top of the page. And if you'd like the book for free, you can just submit your email information and I'll send it to you.
Oh, wow.
For free? Wait, you're giving away books on what's going on here? This isn't how the material world works.
Special promotion. So
it's how the spiritual world works.
What a important combination of information, leadership and parenting. This is something totally needed in my life right now. Matter of fact, I wish I had this 10 years ago, 15 years ago. What inspired you? Or is it a culmination of everything you've been doing so far?
Yes, I've been wanting to write a book since I was really young. And more importantly, since the pandemic, it became very clear to me that myself as a parent, all of my peers, all the parents I was working with, we really struggled not only in our own emotional, social spaces, healing and finding like what the purpose of it all was, but the children, they really suffered the most, especially in their socialization. There's a developmental stage from egocentrism to empathy, like where a child at age 3 to 5 to 7, they start being able to feel for the needs of others and having to be behind screens. And, it's so uncomfortable as a teacher to tell a 6-year-old, stay away, give me space, don't come too close.
Mm.
The kids to not stand next to each other, to space, social distance. They were affected the most. And I had so many parents reaching out to me for help. And it was like, honestly, Raghu, just heartbreaking. So I felt the calling, I just felt the need to, like, Krishna arranged, really the Lord just arranged it all. A publisher had rejected my proposal 4 years ago, but when I reworded it, sent it out again to a few publishers, Dr. Angela Loria of the Difference Press, she's published more than 2,000 books. She accepted it. It was a whole interview process. And in January, I had 6 months with the company, and they helped, formulate it and worked with me on it. And so that's how it started.
That's beautiful. That's exciting. I was thinking myself, I as a parent, I'm always telling my kids, put the screen down. No screens. There's no use for a screen today. There's no one you have to contact. Put it down. And then it turned to this whole thing like, get on your screen. Everybody on your screens. Sit in front of your screen. Make sure. What are you doing? Get on your screen. I was like, this is so counterintuitive here.
Yeah, and it's interesting because in Bhakti, we learn that everybody's, if you have a really intense weakness, it can turn into your strength. So what I discovered through this process of writing this book, especially for children, and even the feedback I'm getting right now, it's an Amazon bestseller, and the feedback I'm getting from so many people who are writing this is that it's not just it was written for 5-year-olds and 7-year-olds, parents of 5 and 7-year-olds, but that any parent can also take a lot of wisdom from it. And that's because the way it's been worded and phrased, and I want to say that the Lord kind of he totally guided the whole process, that the weakness of social dysfunction, when a child is crying and can't understand how to talk to another child, how to work through conflicts. There was this pendulum swinging situation that was happening where they get super attached to each other and then they would reject their friendships. And I think a lot of us went through that even as adults. That can flip to the strength, which is leadership. How to work with others in collaborative spaces. And so I guide a parent step by step through an empowerment process, literally how to any child. I'm extremely confident, I've done it with many children, to guide a child from social dysfunction or really any space to leadership. And it's a full step-by-step process laid out in the book.
Amazing. Okay, now I didn't read the book yet, unfortunately. I need to read the book. I think it'd be great for me. But and I want to thank you for coming on the show at the 11th hour too, because I was eager when I heard about it. I really wanted to get you on the show. But is it a secular book? Is it a spiritual book? Is it a Hare Krishna book?
Yes.
Well, my friends.
Yes, to all of those.
It's all of them.
It's all of those. It's a secular book. It's written for a contemporary audience, a non-Bhakti audience. With our school, TKG Academy, we're in the process of getting accredited. We've been reaching a lot of non-Hare Krishna spaces. And I've been in touch with quite a few educators here in Dallas and beyond. And it's Bhakti principles, all Bhakti principles presented for a secular audience. So
I love this. I think this is a huge thing because Bhakti principles are so powerful. They're so important. Everybody can relate to them. But they may not be able to relate to a guy in a robe with tilak. I was about to say playing the tambourine, although I've never seen a Hare Krishna play the tambourine. That is such a myth. There's no Hare Krishna tambourine players, people. I want you to know that. But yeah, but there are some sort of like cultural pushbacks you get when you see people in a robe. I think more the men. The saris are sort of attractive, but a robe sort of robe and a ponytail. But the principles that we're talking about, everybody can embrace those things. This conceptions of empathy, the concepts of seeing beyond, race or gender preference.
Are those could you share with us the principles that are built into the book?
Yes, absolutely. So we have three core needs that are identified for a child. the need of sambandha, which is connection, the need of abhideya, which is free will agency, and the need of prayojana, which is completion/achievement. And I guide the reader step by step into how to fulfill those core needs. Basically, any issue or any challenge you find with your child, defiance, not wanting to complete tasks, pain of social friendships breaking, all of that is one of those three needs not being met. And so step by step, we show how to hit those needs. Once all three needs have been hit, and this is a pretty common thing now, which is interesting because I wrote this whole structure about 10 years ago. And so Bhakti wisdom, everything that's coming out in leadership spaces is really from the Bhakti wisdom. People just don't know it. Samadhi, dharma, purpose. So we move from purpose/flow. It's an academic absorption state that we have in the academic circles. A child can move from flow into then empathy. When a child or an individual is really confident, they know who they are, they know what they're meant for, that's when they can start thinking of someone else's needs. Until that's set, it's unfair to expect children to think of others' needs until their needs are all met. From empathy, they move into what I call sangha, or like a win-win, like I'll take care of you, I'll help you, you help me, and it's like a symbiotic relationship. And then from there, they move into sankirtan, win-win-win, that John Mackey calls win-win-win. He's the founder of Whole Foods. And I've literally seen children go from stage one, where none of their needs are being met and they're just reactive, because I work in the classroom with little children every day when, not summertime, but
Sure.
And go to a state of Sankirtan. I have my youth leaders across America that are also moving along these stages. And it's not like a step-by-step, it's all circular, but yeah, it's very exciting.
What were those three needs again? You said the child has three needs. Is that right?
Connection, free will, and achievement.
I see. And so you're saying that like if the child is like misbehaved in some way, problematic in some way, we just have to look and say, hey, are these needs being met? And then once you pinpoint those needs, it becomes much more simpler to parent.
Yes, I lay it out in the book what it looks like when a need isn't being met. Like little girl's on the playground, she's 6 years old, and she goes to play with a group of friends who are digging a garden. And as she sits next to her friends, she doesn't realize that she's digging into their garden instead of digging her own space. And immediately she just starts crying because they say, no, we don't want you here to play with us, or oh, we're busy. Like their walls come up because she's disturbing them, and she doesn't realize that she's disturbing them. So she'll walk over to me. This is an actual situation that happened in the school last year. She came over to me like total tears. Oh my God, I have no friends. Nobody wants to play with me. Her mom was one of my clients. So I was observing her to see like, what is broken here? Is it that she wants to do what she wants to do and she doesn't want the children to stop her? Is it a free will need? Or is it that she's trying to become a part of their group? Is it a connection need that's broken? Or is it that she really wants to plant that particular leaf or flower in that little hole that they've made? Is it a completion need that's broken? And so just through observations, we help parents, guide them through observations to identify which is it, or is it a combination of all three? And then you can respond. And sometimes you may think it's something else that's not broken, but with a little bit of responsiveness and reflectiveness, you can identify exactly what it is. Because as parents, I'm a mom of 2 boys, and I've dropped into reactivity so much. It's so natural that we get frustrated when they're frustrated, because their feelings, we are affected. We're biologically tied to our kids, and when their feelings are hurt, our feelings are hurt. We replay our childhood. And so this helps you to just put on a different lens of like, okay, wait a minute, let me actually see what's going on inside of them. And then you begin to build those connections. So
I think you need this, Raghunath, right? It's coming a little late, but there's still
coming
room.
a little late. My kids are all screwed up.
No,
No, my kids are doing great. I just got a video.
Yeah. I was thinking sometimes I see Raghunath replaying his childhood right in front of my eyes. I think we could have gotten this book
I
to you
saw
earlier.
my 15-year-old boy dancing in kirtan at Washington Square Park.
Yeah.
Someone sent me a video, and I was like, oh my God, this is a dad win. A 15-year-old good-looking kid could be doing all types of nonsense things in New York, and he's dancing in a kirtan with a bunch of other 15-year-old boys. For me, that is like a bing. I just won a prize for that one.
That's
Nice.
that's such an amazing feeling, isn't it? When your children step into it. And that's, kirtan and mantra meditation. Every chapter has a mantra affirmation after it. And mantra meditation, it really energizes. I do firmly believe that any parent who's doing nothing but doing mantra, their kids are set.
Right.
There you
Now, how
go.
do you present mantra meditation in a secular book? Do you like an affirmation, or something
Affirmation,
where you repeat over? Okay. You
So
don't
I
give
have
them
shared,
Vedic mantras, do you?
so I have shared the story of and it's a little difficult to talk about. I'm trying to get comfortable talking about it more, but when my son was 15, he had a brain tumor, and we were in the hospital for 3 weeks. It was a kind of a crazy, chaotic time.
Wow.
And he had graduated from TKG Academy. He was in the dual credit program at age 14. He was written up in the news about how intelligent he was, how he was so smart. Hey, Google, stop. Sorry about that.
Little parenting right there.
Hey, if you were my mom, I'd be very, very intelligent too.
I don't know about that, but thank you. It was
Wait a
really,
second. What did you mean by that? No, what do you mean?
um,
Oh, okay. Go on.
it was really the community, the school here, the environment really that brought him to that success. But suddenly I come home one day and he's like, I have an issue. I can't read. I can't. He was throwing up the night before. We thought it was a stomach bug. And I'm like, how are you doing? It's 3 p.m. It was at the end of my school day. And I'm like, okay, how can you say this so matter of factly? Like, have you talked to your dad? Like, what's going on? And we raced to the hospital, and it was definitely very guided by the Supreme Lord. The whole interaction was very clear for me, the lessons that we were meant to learn during that. Having said that, it was the absolutely most painful experience I have ever in my entire life. And
Oh my God.
the pain of a parent. As parents, we do get nuts when our children are suffering. We can really feel keenly that suffering. And I'm no stranger to pain. My husband's had cancer for a few times, and so it's been a dramatic life to say the least. But when this happened, I looked on the hospital floors and the corridors and every floor, and there's so much pain out there. There's so much pain. So every room has babies with brain tumors,
Right.
children with lung issues, and parents. We luckily had Marge with us. Ritidvija Marge came. My sister flew in from India. My mother-in-law's a Prabhupada disciple. She came in. Everybody came in to give us support. We were literally sitting in our room laughing with Ritidvija Swami. He's so incredible. We're like having a party. I'm like pulling nurses' chairs because we need more chairs because we're all hanging out in there laughing and joking and getting through this. It was 3 full weeks in the hospital. And I was like, no one else has this wisdom that we have. I feel the Lord embracing me through this. I know it's crazy suffering. For me, there's a purpose to the suffering. And at that time is when I decided that I need to write this book. And I remembered during the 6 hours of the surgery, he went through brain surgery. And it's still difficult to talk about, but during those 6 hours, and I write about all of this in chapter 2 of the book, I really closed my eyes and prayed like I've never prayed before. Like, my dear Lord, why is this happening? And I know parents feel this a lot with the pain of their children. Maybe it's not as dramatic as a brain tumor, but kids and families and life in this world is, #adulting. It's not easy. And so I prayed, and at that time I was taken back to when I was a little girl on the couch of in my bed or on the couch, and my dad would be singing mantras. And so this is how I present mantras, that the mantras floated in to me, the Sanskrit words, and they gave me a safe space, and each of them were filled with meaning. And I'm going to share these Sanskrit words for you as affirmations. And so that's how I introduce the mantras. And Gornitai, Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda, they appeared to me at that time. Just, I felt their comfort, I felt their care. And we had started worshiping Gornitai deities in our home since we were like 4 years old. My mom said they were our older brothers. And so also every single chapter I share a story of Lord Chaitanya. I call them saints, the patron saints of love and learning, Saint Gora and Saint Nitya. And I share the story of Lord Chaitanya.
Beautiful.
Wow, that is beautiful.
I have a question. Now the book is called Leadership Parenting, and you mentioned earlier how you've seen and you've helped children go from, I forget what you called the initial stage, but when there's no empathy.
Yes, where the connection is broken.
Yeah.
Egocentrism.
So yes, you said from egocentrism all the way to leadership.
Yes.
And now, so I'm wondering, are all children like, do they all have leadership in them? Is that isn't there some followers and not leaders by nature? Or?
So leaders are not born, leaders are made. And leaders aren't the ones who are, our idea of a leader is someone's at the front, who's giving instructions, who's bossing people around. And this is all explained in my introduction and my earlier chapters. The best definition of leadership I actually found at a private school here in Dallas. We were there at St. Mark's private school. It's a uppity, prestigious, it's the most prestigious school in our area. And the head of school was sharing that leadership is when everyone together works to help achieve a common goal. So, Srila Prabhupada taught us that the devotee who's in the kitchen at the end of the festival when everyone else is tired, cleaning up the dishes to make the environment for others, that's a leader. And I and colleagues that are non-bhakti colleagues are out to normalize leadership. Leadership doesn't necessarily mean the one who's getting all the fame and all the glory. And leadership is the person who's helping another person with a common goal, who's helping, not my goal, not your goal, but it's Sankirtan. It's collaborative service with humility, and that's leadership.
Thank you. And this St. Mark's sounds like a place right? that Mara might have gone to this St. Mark's if she was there.
Did you play them in
uppity schools,
uppity, uptight, educational learning facilities? Did you play them in softball?
A little out of my range.
I said uppity school on one of my Facebook posts, and I actually got a few messages saying that was disrespectful. So
it is sort of. It's not a good thing to call someone uppity. I think you meant like sort of prestigious. High-end, high scale.
It's not uppity.
Uppity means
stuffy.
Stuffy.
I can say English was my second.
Snobbish.
I use that excuse.
Snobbish, right? Your people were snobbish a little, right?
What was that laugh right there? Okay.
Wow, that's a great one. And we had a big kitchen last night that was messy. Give me a show. Who cleaned that kitchen last night? Raise your hand. Oh, it was Irene. Okay, Irene's the leader of the group here. Because I looked at that kitchen and go, thank God Rachel's managing this thing, because I am so tired right now. I just turned in my leadership card last night. I love these. Go on.
Go ahead. You go. No, you go ahead, brother.
I just love these undented can stories. Gopi, we have this thing we say on the show that we say, we're like a dented can. We grew up in this crazy world with crazy habits and crazy friends. And then by Krishna's mercy, we met a devotee and we're like, you know what? I'm going to change my life. And we're on this path of changing. We're changing our habits and changing our thoughts and changing our behavior and adopting these principles. But then we meet someone like you, whose mother says things like, your older brother is Gore and Nitai. I was like, oh man, you've been doing this since you were a little baby. You're undented.
Aw,
Yeah.
I wish I was undented, but thank you.
See, they would say that. They would only
Undented
undented Cam would say, "I wish I was undented."
I was thinking both you and your sister, who we've had on the show previously, right, Raghunath?
Yeah, Goramani. We love Goramani.
That was I don't know, maybe a year and a half ago or a long time ago, or
Yeah.
maybe even nearly 2 years ago. But she's this incredibly empowered kirtan leader, like just with like thousands and thousands of people like inspired by her.
Yeah, they are
But
like the Partridge family, the Krishna
Yeah, they're like
conscious part. They travel around,
That's right.
husband, kids. He's got some gopis with her also, and they're just like singing all over the world. It's quite beautiful.
It's
And
just-
yeah, and I was thinking when I hear you speak, like in other words, going through such a, I can't even imagine what it's like to have a child with a brain tumor and be in the hospital and so on. But to see how this philosophy and this devotion has been, it's something that you've imbibed from such a young age that it seems like it can really carry you through the greatest challenges in life.
Yes, and the other side of it, the other side of the challenges is so beautiful. It's so enchanting when you see, like for me, when I see a child going from social dysfunction to empathy, when I see a little boy, this is one of my favorite stories because I'm a first to third grade teacher at the school. We have multi-level classrooms, and so I get to be with little kids all day. It's like my sweet spot. And we have desks that are combined. So two kids are sitting at a desk in their work, making their books or doing what they need to do. And one of the boys is totally sprawled out, encroaching in on his friend. Let's call him Raj and Carl. So
Okay.
Carl's getting uncomfortable, getting annoyed because Raj is taking over his space. And boys are, they need their space. They need their territory, especially if they're spreading out. So what happened was Carl took his chair and moved it firmly. He was trying to get into his spot and reclaim his place.
You could go ahead and just say Raghu and Kaustubha for the names if you want to. That's where we might get a clear understanding of this. But I'm sorry, please continue.
The wooden chair leg totally crushed Raj's foot.
Oh,
Like it went right on his foot.
Sorry about that.
And
Kaustubha.
he very dramatically, very intensely falls to the floor and he's screaming, crying, and I jump up. And as he falls to the floor, his scissors fly out of his hand.
oh,
And the blunt end, the handle end of it hits Carl on his nose. So now there's two kids crying. Luckily, it wasn't the pointy end, right?
Yeah.
Two kids
Right.
were yelling and upset. And this was after, right when we got back into classroom after the pandemic, everything was more dramatic. The children just needed so much more love. And so, right as I'm jumping up and calling the assistant over, let's take care of these children, Raj calls out, oh, he sees that not only is he hurt, but his friend is also hurt. And he says, he's mid-scream, and he sees that Carl has gotten hurt. And he says, are you okay? Oh, you got hurt too? Are you okay?
mhm. That's a win right there.
That for me was empathy. When he came to us 2 years prior, he wasn't in that space. He wasn't able to feel for someone else. What does speak of feel for someone else? But when you're in pain and you're able to supersede your pain and go into taking care of someone else's needs, that for me, Martin Luther King, Mother Teresa, that's what the greats do.
It's a bhakti principle right there too.
That's
Yes.
empathy. And when I see that, I know that I'm only able to see that because of the pain that we've been through, that my family's.
Mhm.
I know that the challenges that I faced have turned my attention, my mindset, my whole mindset has changed. And I'm grateful. I don't think I'll ever say I'm grateful for the tumor, but I'm
Right.
grateful for the lessons. I'm grateful for the lessons, the challenges that our family's been faced with, because now I can see this with another lens. I can guide parents, teachers, individuals through the same spaces. So
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Now, I noticed in the table of contents, there's a chapter entitled "How Can They Accept Boundaries?"
yes.
And that's, I mean, just, I'm not a parent, but I always see that I always see parents struggling with this. I see children pushing the boundaries. I see parents struggling. On one hand, they want to be always kind and loving. On the other hand, they feel that I need to set some boundaries just for the health of the child, what to speak of everybody else in the world.
Yes.
So could you speak a bit about that, setting boundaries?
So anytime parents look for guidance, and teachers or anyone working with kids, the first question that comes up isn't how can my kid connect with other kids? It's how can I get my children to listen to what I want them to do and do what I need them to do? And what about discipline? I'll get this, like when I'm doing workshops, I'll get this really strong question and eyes are furrowed and like, okay, enough of this like la-di-da, airy-fairy
What about that discipline?
gentle stuff. What about like getting them to do what I need them to do, and obedience and submission, firmness, and
Yeah.
and so
You got a book on that? Is that what we're talking about right now?
so that chapter 8 is how to engage their free will. So other psychologies or parenting programs call this the control need or the power need, the need for power. It's actually really sad that it's portrayed that children have a need for control and a need for power, because children are so naturally placed in bhakti. Even children who are not bhakti kids, they're so naturally placed in mode of goodness. And so this is actually a missing need of free will. And if you can figure out how to guide them, and I have a whole process, I call it the serve process, how to guide them step by step through engaging in the task you want them to engage in, and I lay it out very strongly, as well as natural consequences, karma. The whole process of karma is as a process of natural consequences. So I present it that way. So that chapter on boundaries is how to help your child be who they need to be by keeping the boundaries firm, but also walking with them step by step. A leader isn't somebody who stands from afar and says, okay, do this and do that and do this and do that. It's the same thing as we're leading our children, as we're leading our students. You walk with them. A leader is someone who takes your hand and walks with you and meets you where you need to go. And so that's what that whole chapter, that's like what parents feel is the most important chapter in the book, because that's the question we have. But we can't do that if we don't have the sambandha fulfilled. Just like Maslow's hierarchy, you've got to connect first. You got to know how to connect first with your child before you can expect them to just do what you want them to do. So.
Okay, I think I'm catching on to the theme here. And to me, it's just like in bhakti, like we want to deeply absorb ourselves in meditation. But before we do that, we have to change as people. We have to become wiser. We have to become detached from material things. We have to lose interest in a lot of stuff. And then the mind becomes peaceful, and then you can absorb it. And it sounds like when these 3 needs are being met, if we focus on that first, then setting those boundaries is going to be much easier work. Is that how it works?
Yes. And Hare, the word Hare is the energy of the Lord. And in science, I teach my students science. The general definition of energy is the ability to work. And so I use at the mantra section, which can also be skipped for those who may not want it. Of course, I think everyone here is familiar with mantra. The word Hare is compassionately engage me in your service. Help me do the work that I need to do and help me be compassionate towards my child. So there's something that happens with parents, all of us, that when our kids are defiant or not following instructions or freaking out or reactive, we all jump into, like I say, raving banshees. Like we become the worst possible selves when we're around our kids, and when we're frustrated, we're so comfortable with them that we may lose it ourselves. And so this chapter helps work through that, from reactivity to responsiveness. And there's a lot there about how to get your kids to do what you want them to do without losing it. So
gotcha. I think Raghu needs that, right?
Yeah.
Every parent, we all need it.
Now, the school you run is a Waldorf school, a Krishna conscious Waldorf school, or a Krishna conscious Montessori school?
It's neither Waldorf nor Montessori. It's just a regular secular school, but we do have a lot of Waldorf and Montessori principles in it. So our early childhood is primarily Montessori, but we'll call it Montessori inspired because all of those Waldorf and Montessori, they're pretty rigid in a lot of their presentation, but they also have amazing parts to them. So we just kind of pick and choose what works for the school. We have 9 core principles that we follow, and it's mainly how to bring out intrinsic motivation, full absorption in a child, and it's Bhakti. It's a primarily Bhakti school. So,
and this is in Dallas, Texas. So we might have listeners out there in Dallas with kids. Also, how could they contact you about the school if they're interested in the school?
yes, tkgacademy.com.
tkgacademy.com. What a joy. If you have, I tell you, it's the biggest worry about parents. Where are my kids going to go to school? Who's going to be educating my kids? Who's, shepherding them through life? Because you're with the kids more than the parents are with the kids.
Yes,
pretty much.
Absolutely. Everyone we see on the planet right now was a child at once. And all of the dysfunction that happens in adult life happens when you're a child. And I think in the society in general, especially in North America, it's a little sad. I don't want to bash anyone or society, or I don't believe in bashing society, but
let's bash it.
It's a mess out there.
Let's bash it a little.
It's heartbreaking because so little attention is given to the kids. You never see kids out, kids are all in daycare or they're all in schools. It's not like a kid friendly society. There are a lot of.
How did you grow up? What was your school?
I also went to Gurukul in Detroit with Mother Urmila, 1981 to 1980 to onwards, and then I moved to Los Angeles and Potomac. Everywhere I went to a Gurukul, except for Potomac. When I lived in Potomac, we were in the private school there. So,
did you have a lot of takeaways from your schooling that you liked, that you kept?
Absolutely. We started our day at 4:30 in the morning in those days. Gurukul started at Mangalarti time.
Was your private school like that, Mara? 4:30 in the morning, singing songs in a robe, in a sari? Okay.
Yeah, so the biggest takeaway, of course, is the Bhakti takeaway, the importance of Krishna consciousness at an early time. And Kumara Acharit Pragyo, we have to start when they're young, because this is going to be the face of our world. All these children who are going through social dysfunction right now, who don't know how to work with each other, give it 10 years, give it 15 years, and that's going to be society, 25 years.
I think we're already there. We're having a little trouble getting along with each other for sure.
It's actually hard. Not only is it heartbreaking, it's really scary. And so it's scary to know that children who are having dysfunction in kindergarten and who don't have it solved then will become the adults of the leaders of our country, the adults that make up the population of every state, every city. And Lord Chaitanya has ushered in a golden age, and he feels this pain of humanity. And the only way we're going to change it on a macrocosmic level is to completely rejuvenate the next generation. And so that's my mission. Not my mission, that's our mission, is let's start with the kids. Let's empower these children through guidance through Lord Chaitanya, and let's get this golden age strong and powerful.
I love this. Is your campaign speech. I love this. By the way, this, of course, wherever you're at with your kids, because we get a lot of listeners with all, it does. If you get into it late, that's okay too. If your kids get into it later, it's wonderful to be born into all of this stuff. It may not have happened, and you might feel like, well, I missed the boat. No, don't worry. The best time to plant a fruit tree is 10 years ago. Second best time to plant that fruit tree is today. So even me and Kaustubha, we got it to later in life, meaning when we were, 20, 21, we got into Bhakti. But, we're a little dented. Kaustubha's less dented, obviously, than me.
I'm dented.
You're dented. See, just like an undented can says, I'm dented. But there's hope. But yeah, if you have the opportunity and you have young children, search this out, even rethink things, perhaps even homeschool your kids, and you can like hand select what they learn, how they relate to others. My kids went to a Waldorf school in their young ages, especially. And actually even in high school, my older kids went to high school there. And it was such a different environment than the public school I went to.
Yes.
It was like they were greeted with love. It was on a 400-acre farm. There was a man playing the accordion as the bus let them out. It was like I was
You always wanted
struggling
that,
to
huh?
survive when I was in 7th grade.
There's no
There was like a
accordion
bully
player.
system, a pecking order set up perfectly, and you knew your place in that pecking order, and you had to either fight your way to the top of the pecking order, or you had to become a wallflower so no one would like destroy you and just like merge into nothingness. It was such and I never even realized it. I thought that was normal. When I first went to the Waldorf school, and the principal sat me down and said, "Mr. Capo, we are really firm about absolutely no bullying policy."
Yeah.
In my head, I was like, no bullying. Well, how do you establish who's in charge here? Like, that's all I knew with this bullying system. And but it's
about these about Bhakti principles is like I just finished with a client who had a 17-year-old. She had wanted to get him support and help herself, and working with him when he was 12 and then 16, and finally she's like, oh, he's gonna be an adult and I need help. And I just finished with a 17-year-old, and Raghu, I am amazed, like Kaustubha Prabhu and Raghunath Prabhu, I'm amazed. Within 2 weeks, her whole paradigm, her whole environment is completely changed through these principles that have been laid out. Like I can promise that if any parent, or honestly any individual, follows the principles laid out in my book, even just the connection, how to reinvigorate connection with a child, you will see results immediately, within a week, within 3 days. And they're very basic strategies, simple strategies that you can apply, and you will see results immediately.
Raghunath, I want you to get this book. I want you to have someone read it to you. And I want to see these principles in play.
You notice Kaustubha said that because he
Tarun.
knows I don't read books. I listen to books.
I know, that's right.
Because I multitask. I'll mow the lawn. I'll ride my bike, and I'll listen to a book. But for me
Let's
to
see
sit
some
down,
results. I think we will.
Thank you. Yeah, I need this in my life as well.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. So maybe we should wrap. I feel like
Yeah,
we touched a lot of beautiful points here.
Let's go back to where people can find the book.
Yes, so gopigita.com is where you can get the book for free. You can download it for free. I'm having a webinar this Wednesday. You can also get the link to the webinar.
Oh,
a free webinar for parents this Wednesday. That's also up on the website, gopigita.com. And if you want to work with me personally, you can also find out my information there and set up a call to figure out how I can help you, how I can serve.
Do you do personal privates, like help me and my kids going crazy?
I do, absolutely. I do one-to-one client coaching. I do group coaching.
Okay, that's great, because I need coaching for my kid. One of my kids is he's out there. Sweet like anything, but he is hard. He's a tough one.
Those are the ones, Raghu, those are the kids that are hard. Those are the strongest, most powerful children. Those are the kids that are going to be
That's what I tell him. I said, use your powers for good.
They're the ones that are the most exciting, because they're gonna dynamically change this world. And they have so much in them that as a little child, it manifests in the
punching people.
As the opposite way. So
yeah. He
punches people. He has a thing called the daily punch.
The daily punch, where he comes and just punches me as hard as he can in the arm.
Not only you, others as well.
Everyone he meets, he punches. He punches Marrow.
How old is he?
He's 8 now, but he's been punching since he since he came out of the womb. He's been punching people.
He's punching in the womb.
He might have been a mixed martial artist in a previous life. And I think I should just usher him towards the martial arts.
I'll help you figure out why that's happening and how to channel it.
There we go. Yeah. See, Raghu?
By the way, Gopi Gita is spelled Gita. GOPI.com.
Gopi Gita.
Gopi Gita G. So nice to see you and connect. And we're excited for this book. I think it's going to change the masses because you're an inspirational figure. You're a bright light in this world. We need more bright lights. The podcast is here to help us light our fire. I'm getting lit up just by the association every day on Wisdom in the Sages. Please tell your friends about this podcast. Thank you for joining us. And thanks to all the people who are working with children and educating in spiritual life, because it's really our future. Thanks, everybody. Haribo.
Yeah.
Now, this is the fun part of the show where we all clap our hands, we dance around the screen. There's one other little announcement we want to make today now. What is it about? Sage Academy. We got a show tomorrow, right? 6 a.m. We're back at 6 a.m., everybody. Here's a question. Cat sitter. I need a cat sitter. That's urgent. I just lost my cat sitter.